When Florence Bascom walked into the classroom, every head turned, not in admiration, in disbelief. She was the first woman admitted to Johns Hopkins, and they made her sit behind a curtain so her presence wouldn't distract the men. But Florence wasn't there to be seen. She was there to see deeper than anyone ever had, into the layers of Earth, into time itself, into the truths hidden in stone. They told her geology was no place for women. She answered by building the science itself, mapping terrains no man could decode, training the first generation of women geologists, becoming the first female geologist at the U.S. Geological Survey. The fascination of any search after truth lies not in the attainment, but in the pursuit. Florence Bascom, this is not just the story of rock and soil. This is the story of a woman who cracked open history and found herself beneath it. They said women couldn't be geologists. Then she mapped the Earth. Florence Bascom was born in 1862 in Williamstown, Massachusetts. Her father was a professor, her mother a suffragette. They didn't raise her to sit still. They raised her to ask why. At age 7, she was already fascinated by rocks, not as trinkets, as stories. She believed that every hill, every fault, every crack in the crust carried a memory. While other children collected dolls, Florence collected time. The pebble in your hand is older than empires. Florence Bascom, lecture note. She attended University of Wisconsin at a time when women were still denied entry into most academic fields. But she didn't wait for permission. She became the first woman to receive a degree in geology from the school. Then she did something even more audacious. She applied to Johns Hopkins University, the elite all-male institution. They accepted her, reluctantly, with rules. She had to sit behind a curtain so the men wouldn't see her. But she could still see the chalkboard, and that was all she needed. She didn't come to be visible. She came to see. Most people would have stopped at the curtain, but Florence didn't come to be tolerated. She came to transform the field, and she did, one hammer blow at a time. In 1896, she became the first woman ever hired by the U.S. Geological Survey. Her specialty? The rocks no one else wanted to touch. Metamorphic terrains, crystalline basement, complex structures, the messy, folded chapters of Earth's history. Men said those rocks were impossible to map. Florence just called them unfinished sentences. The geologist's task is to read the Earth's autobiography in fragments. Florence Bascom. She mapped regions in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, revealing ancient processes hidden in stone. Her fieldwork was brutal. Long days, harsh terrain, male peers who whispered she didn't belong. But she kept showing up, with her notebook, with her hammer, with her mind like bedrock, precise, patient, immovable. And soon they weren't whispering anymore. They were quoting her. Florence didn't just break barriers. She built something behind them. In 1895, she founded the geology department at Bryn Mawr College, the first in the country led by a woman. She wasn't just teaching rocks. She was laying the foundation for women in science. For the first time in U.S. history, women weren't just allowed to study geology. They were trained to lead it. Her lab became a sanctuary, a forge, a rebellion disguised as education. The world may ignore our questions, but the Earth does not. Florence Bascom. She trained dozens of women who went on to become pioneers, working in government, academia, and the field. Every lecture, every diagram, every field trip. was a statement, we are here, we are capable, and the earth is ours to explore. My work is not merely to study stones, but to lift stones that have been placed on women's paths, paraphrased from her letters. And so, through microscopes and mountains, she built more than a career. She built a legacy. Florence didn't seek credit, but the earth itself gave her a legacy. Her work on the Appalachian Piedmont transformed our understanding of mountain building. She decoded ancient metamorphic rocks, once considered unreadable. Her maps became models. Her terminology became standard. Her methods became foundational. No one had ever studied complex rock formations with such clarity, such discipline, such poetry. Geological Society Review. In 1930, she became the first woman officer of the Geological Society of America. She was no longer behind the curtain. Now, the room waited for her to speak. Her eyes had seen deeper, her hands had felt older stones, and her voice, calm, exact, unwavering, carried the weight of truth carved from stone. She didn't just read the earth's story, she taught the world how to listen. Florence Bascom died in 1945, but her story didn't end, because the layers she uncovered, in rock, in education, in expectation, would shape generations. Her students went on to teach in universities across the country. Her maps are still used by geologists today. Her presence cracked open a field that had once buried women. And what she gave the world wasn't just data. It was depth. A way of seeing, a way of asking, a way of listening to the planet beneath our feet. Science is not a fortress, it is a field, and every stone turned is a step forward. Florence Bascom paraphrased. Today, when we map the land, when we teach geology, when a young girl picks up a stone and asks, "How old is this?" We're standing on ground she cleared because the earth remembers her. And so do we.